So today this is inspired by the panel of Grapevine, and the title of the panel was The Millennial Response to Charlottesville, and it talks about the role of the oppressor and the oppressed in society. And we're going to be discussing like what we have to do and what the two different roles in society have to do to work together and to like progress in society, I guess. So yeah, what do you think the role of the oppressed is in society? Because we all know like the oppressor, like, oh, you have to be open-minded, you have to help the oppressed, but what does the oppressed do in that situation?
My theory is that like we should try our best to get rid of the oppressed, because I mean by giving roles by like people who are oppressed, you're basically saying how they're destined to be this kind of role. And so by giving someone, oh, if you are an oppressed minority, you should be acting in this way, like that itself is like, I think that's the kind of misled thinking. It should more be like, how can we help these oppressed people not be oppressed? It's like, what are efforts we can do to actually make sure these people aren't as bad as they are right now?
I mean, but there's also the argument that the oppressor is like, okay, I will help you, like I will use my like privilege to help alleviate that sort of oppression somehow by like participating in movements and protests, right? But then they're saying that the oppressor is saying, oh, then since you are the oppressed, you better work too. Like you can't just like sit on the couch and like wait for someone to hold your hand. But then the oppressed side got mad because they're saying, we don't have the opportunities, we don't have the resources to like climb up in society. Like, how dare you tell us that we have a responsibility? Like this is a burden that's like weighed on our shoulders. And so there's like a huge argument against that.
Because I think it's kind of like strange to put a blanket statement on oppressed people in general, because there are some people who I think are like a racial minority, but at the same time aren't actually people who consider themselves oppressed.
Right, like
in
Asian American.
Yeah, exactly. But then it's actually on the other hand, there are a lot of actually like what people call the oppressors who are actually more offended by jokes aimed at like the oppressed, for example, more than the oppressed people themselves. So I think it's kind of there are two different ways that this can go, right? They're like two different spectrums. One is like, oh, people who are genuinely just concerned about the conditions, and those who actually want to fight and like participate in movements like Black Lives Matter. And then there are those who just don't really consider themselves as oppressed people, and that's completely fine too.
Like they could be part of a minority, but they aren't as oppressed.
Exactly.
So a discussion that came out of the panel was saying like Asian Americans, like they don't want to help Black minorities because they kind of somehow benefit from that oppression, right? Like people are saying like, oh yeah, like how Asian Americans in America, like we are discriminated against, but it's not to that point where like our lives are on the line, right? Like it's just we have great like job opportunities and people are saying like, oh, Asians also hate blacks, and there was that whole situation like if the oppressed or the oppressed, which is basically like the minorities, don't consider themselves as oppressed, where do they stand? What is their role in society?
That's true. But I mean, like I said before, putting a role on like the oppressed is something that's kind of skewed to me. But I mean, there are different. I guess you can say there are different mannerisms that people who are considered the oppressed might have. But at the same time, much of that's natural. Like, I mean, it is a concern, but at the same time, you can't really apply that to everyone else. Like, there are two sides of everything. Like,
So, do you think if you are part of, like, if you are white and you obviously have privileges coming from that, do you think that the oppressor always has a responsibility in helping the oppressed, or is it kind of on, the responsibility of the oppressed?
Alright, I guess if we do assume...
Guys, get out! We're recording something!
It's all good.
It's alright.
Now I have to edit it!
Yeah. Good. He said it's good. So people say it's good.
Yeah, this is because of my FOA.
This is because of your life.
Get out! Wait, actually get out. We have to record.
Put this on bloopers. This is kind of
Okay.
fun. Anyway, yeah.
Hola, buenos días, señor. Muy bien.
Anyway, like as I was saying, like there are a lot of people who consider like the oppressed as like, oh, just because you're born in like a special background or like you're raised a certain way, you automatically have like some kind of obligation to do something. Like race doesn't give you obligation, like power does. Like and like there are different people who are racial minorities who find that it is difficult to live amongst like Americans, but that's kind of true, right? Because even though we don't like show it, it's inherently true that maybe some people of racial minorities don't have the same benefits as those who are majorities.
Yeah, like white privilege doesn't mean that you are automatically at the top of society. It just means that you aren't like excluded from potential resources. Like when we say, oh, if you're white, you have privilege, that doesn't mean that your life is going to be like you're going to be rich, you're going to be wealthy all of the time. It just means like you aren't going to be discriminated against. And that itself is privilege.
Well, then again, there's also this argument that you can consider that mostly those who are the oppressed. I don't want to keep using that term. Like,
yeah, right.
I'm not sure if I want to keep using that.
Wait, because are you oppressed if you think you're oppressed, or does your race determine your role in society?
Yeah, because there's some people who just consider themselves oppressed, even regardless of race.
Yeah.
They could just be like, I feel oppressed by my parents, or I feel oppressed by other elements of society.
Oppressed can be also be. Do you think oppressed could also be a different factor instead of race, like financial, maybe economically?
Mm-hmm. I mean, like
there's gender.
Yeah, there's gender. Okay, gender does play a role too. Well, I guess we're trying to reduce that gap. I mean, like, there's this entire debate of like, oh, does the gender pay gap exist? And
I think we should stop fighting about that.
I mean, I don't know enough to talk about it. That's the thing. Like, does it really exist? I don't know.
I mean, like, why are we talking about whether or not it exists? But like, I think it does exist, right? Like, it's literally a factual statement. Like, women earn like 77 cents to a dollar, and then there are arguments like, oh, it's because like women get pregnant throughout their like peak careers, and therefore they get paid less. But like, we need to fight. Like, we need to stop fighting about what is happening. We need to start like acting, you know? It's like, why are we fighting about whether or not the wage gap is there? Like, it is, and we need to work towards, we need to discuss the solutions to that, right?
Yeah. For the most part, yeah, that's mostly the case you want to go to. But I mean, there's an entire debate about whether or not that exists, but it's mostly about, like you said, coming to conclusions, coming to actual solutions that we might actually benefit from. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the entire argument that people have roles in society as well, like, there are people who might consider themselves oppressed and be like, oh, I wish I wasn't born into this kind of society. And then we have to make sure we ensure that equality is, I guess, implemented not just people of certain color, but also people of like backgrounds who are actually genuinely oppressed, and not just people who claim to be, or people who are like.
I mean, like, what determines if you're oppressed? Like, just because you're black, or just because you're Asian, or just because you're Hispanic, does that mean you're oppressed? Because I don't see myself as oppressed. I mean, like, we are Asians, and honestly, we do have more opportunities than other races. But I don't think we are the oppressor.
No, I mean, I there's sometimes where I think I know that, oh, there's some people who are kind of throwing some kind of, like, they low-key know I'm Asian, and so they treat me a little bit differently. And actually, I kind of like that, because I kind of take how they're like other people's identification of the Asian race actually kind of interesting, because there are other parts where I think, oh, I know that there are stereotypes and like interpretations of the Asian race are kind of blatantly out there, but at the same time it's kind of fun to see that, because I know that doesn't apply for everyone, I know that, but for me at least, it's like I see people make fun of like me and be like, oh Jeremy, like, what'd you get in your math test? 99. I'm just like, not really. I got a 6.
I mean, it's like Asian stereotypes versus like police brutality. Obviously, like, we aren't at the bottom, but I do think that like for me, like those stereotypes affect me. I think those stereotypes are important, like not just in conversations. Like if you come up to me and ask me if I'm from North or South Korea, like I don't really care. Like that's just your ignorance and like that's your problem. But it affects us when it like affects, I don't know, like job opportunities.
When they're terrorist
or like
attacks.
yeah, terrorist attacks. Like small things like that affect our living like style.
Conditions.
Yeah, conditions.
Anyway, we're gonna wrap up there. Thank you so much for watching. This is quite a short vid as of today. But yeah, thanks for joining the conversation. Leave comments below and subscribe to her channel.
Thank you. Bye.